Hey everyone, it's Evangeline, and today we're taking a look at our Yakima HighSpeed Roof Bike Rack. This is a fork-mounted bike rack that allows you to carry around bikes on your roof. This is going to be a premium rack with premium features that we'll take a look at here in this video. This is going to have your universal straps as well as your smart T-slot adapter for channel mounted situations, and we'll talk about that right here at etrailer.com. The main things that make this stand out compared to other racks are you have a universal clamp strap design that sits very low profile on your crossbars. You have a low profile rack, and you also have the torque right knob that prevents over tightening of your bike skewers. This will fit bikes of different shapes and sizes, whether you have a through axle or a quick release. Included with this rack is a quick release skewer. You can leave this on your rack so that when you use your quick release bikes, you just pop the fork onto that and go ahead and leave the skewer right there. Now, I do have mixed feelings about this because it's not as designed for long-term use, but we can go into that when we talk about loading and unloading the bikes. A lot of people like to use this rack with their thru-axle bikes though, because the clamp design fits many types of through axles. I currently have a 110mm through axle in here. That torque right knob is awesome because it's easily accessible from the ground to tighten down your bike, but also it clicks when you reach enough tension. The downside though to this knob is that it doesn't lock unless you purchase lock cores separately. See this tab right here? Well, that's gonna be a plastic cover that you can install your lock cores. There are going to be 3 spots to install cores on. The other 2 are going to be first your crossbar attachment lock, which secures the strap to your crossbar, and then the third is going to be our tail whip attachment. This is going to be the integrated cable lock included with your bike rack. So when you pull out the cable, you can then wrap it around your bike. Now, for most wheelbases, the best I could find was to wrap it around the frame because it secures into itself. It's not a very long cable, but it is a helpful theft deterrent for when you are parked. We have sets of Yakima SKS lock cores. Now, they are sold in numbered sets, so usually if you just want to secure your bike rack, that's going to be at least a 4 set. But if you also want to secure your roof rack and make sure that everything is keyed alike, you may have to get up to 8 lock cores at a time in order to batch lock everything. Since this secures your bike by the front fork, you only need to worry about the rear wheel when it comes to tire sizes. So the maximum tire width this can carry is going to be up to 5 inches. You do get 2 different strap options. I'm currently using the shorter strap, but I could very easily use a longer strap since we have a wider tire. Now I can also adjust this cradle back and forth for different wheelbases. The maximum wheelbase you're going to be able to carry this is going to be up to 50 inches. If you're familiar with the older design for the Yakima HighSpeed, which was from 2017 to 2023, that one was a tad bit shorter than this one. So we do have a longer bike rack to work with for those longer bikes. So if you're trying to figure out if you can still use this on your car, here's a good measurement. I measure from the front of the cradle, which cannot be moved on the rack, to the end of the bike rack, and that's going to be 48 inches and 1/4 of an inch. Or 4 feet and 1/4 of an inch. That will help you figure out if you are able to open up your hatch door or not. In our case, we just barely made it, but we cleared. And for those that like to switch their roof bike racks around in order to stagger them through, let's talk about the front measurement as well. Measuring from the end of the skewer to the center of the crossbar, that's going to be 7 inches of clearance. This measurement is important because a lot of people like how the HighSpeed sets their bike a bit forward on the fork mount. This allows them to maximize their smaller cars, and some have experienced a better angle of the bike on there, meaning they feel a bit more secure when they drive around. Now, that will be different depending on your bike and depending on your car, but hopefully these measurements help you out. For the widest part of the bike rack though, this is going to be 8.5 inches from end to end. So if you do have shorter crossbars on your smaller vehicles and you want to carry as many bikes as possible, definitely take that measurement, but also take into account the space that your handlebars and pedals will also take up. For the weight capacity for your bikes, if you're going off-road, well, you're working with a weight capacity of 24 pounds for your bike. But for normal use, you have a weight capacity of up to 40 pounds. You also benefit from removing that front wheel, so you do get to work with your slightly heavier bikes. Now, when it comes to weight capacity for roof-mounted bike racks, in my opinion, it's not so much the weight capacity of the rack, it's how much do you want to lift onto your roof. Before loading your bike, you first have to install your bike rack. You do have two options here. You can use the universal clamps, which is what the bike rack comes pre-installed with. These clamps fit around your crossbar just like that. You fit the strap around, get the lever up into the tabs, and then you tighten it down. If you feel like you need to adjust the tension, you can loosen the strap or tighten it more. The sweet spot is if you feel just enough of resistance as you push down, but you're still able to close it. The straps work perfectly fine for most situations. If you have arrow bars or round bars or square bars, you'll tend to use the straps. When you won't be using the straps though is if you have clearance issue. Maybe you want to use the overhang of your roof rack and get your bike further out to the side of the car, but there's a tower in the way. Or maybe you have extra large crossbars like the HD bars or a ladder rack, and the straps don't fit around the bars. In those scenarios, you can convert to the channel mount. In order to install the T-Track kit though, you do have to make a little bit of adjustment, plus use a flathead screwdriver in this process. So the flathead screwdriver is just to lift the reel out of the bike rack, and then you're going to remove these straps from the barrel, just like that. Once that's removed, you can then remove the straps completely. Do this carefully, since it does need to maneuver around the components inside the rack. Next up is to get your T-bolts into the channel. If you have a Yakima roof rack like this, process is very simple. You just push down and twist. You're going to do that in the general area of where your bike rack is going to go. You want 2 in the front crossbar, 1 in the rear crossbar. If you're using this with other brands, that's fine. You just might need to take off the end cap or cut the top rubber strips in order to make space for these bolts. Mounting it to the channel gives me so much more versatility to where I want to mount the bike rack. Now I do have to line it up and make sure it's perfectly square. See how that just popped through so the bolt could stick up? Once you do that to all 3 bolts, you can then secure it. You tighten these down with the included nuts, plus you also get a little socket wrench to give yourself a little bit more force. Ideally, you'll want these tightened down to 25 inch-pounds. Cover them up with the included cap replacements, and that's it for your install. There's 2 methods of mounting your bike. If you do have a thru-axle bike, process is very simple. Remove the wheel, put your thru-axle back in, and then drop your bike into the bike rack. Now if you have a quick release bike though, that's where it'll be a little bit more interesting. Attaching this to the bike allows me to tighten down the skewer to my preferred tension, so I know that it truly is secure, plus I can do all this on the ground and not on the roof of my car. I also find it easier to drop the entire skewer into the bike rack versus lining up the forks with the skewer. Now once that top part is in place, you have a lot of stability here to line up the back if needed, or reach around with your other hand to tighten down the knob. And then that knob secures to your skewer. Secure your rear wheel strap. By the way, if you do switch your bike rack around, that strap can be attached on whichever side of the rack. There's two fun accessories you can add when you carry your quick release bikes. The first is going to be the locking quick release skewer. That way you can add a lock cord to that skewer to prevent theft. And the second one is going to be your carrier for your wheel. If you're going to take your front wheel off to mount it to the rack, where are you going to put it? You could put it in your vehicle, or you could put it on your roof as well. This is going to be the Yakima wheelhouse with your quick release wheels. This is going to work perfectly fine. If you want to mount your thru-axle wheels though, you are going to have to purchase the separate thru-axle skewer. There's two versions of this bike rack. One is going to be channel mount and clamp mounted, which is what we have here. The other, which is clamp mount only, which is still very useful for most situations. This utilizes a lever as well as a strap. So that strap wraps around your crossbars rather than a large clamp. This is very low profile and very universal. You can adjust this for most types of crossbars. And then this allows for a strong and secure fit of your rack to your roof rack. If you are comfortable with taking off your front wheel and storing it either on your roof or in your vehicle, or if you find some difficulty with lifting bikes high up onto your roof, then getting the Yakima HighSpeed fork-mounted rack is going to be an awesome option. It's a premium rack with premium features. I especially like that torque right knob because it's so easy to reach. However, the HighSpeed does require that you go through the process of installing your tire before you get ready to hit the trails. If you want something that gets you onto the trails even faster, you might be interested in the Yakima High Road instead. This is going to be a wheel-on bike rack that allows you to keep that front wheel on, and it secures the bike by the front wheel. Very similar design and shape, just a different type of bike rack. The downside to the high road though is you do have to lift your bike even further up to get it up and into the cradle versus the HighSpeed where it's a bit more accessible to someone of my height. So there's pros and cons to every rack, but hopefully this video helped guide you through that process and see which one fits better for you. In my opinion, the features of this rack are very, very helpful for knowing that your bike is transported safely and securely, plus knowing that you have a solid rack that will last for a longer amount of time. Plus, my personal suggestion is if you're really concerned about security, go ahead and get a long cable lock. Wrapping that around both your bike and your rack and your roof rack might solve a lot of problems there. But that's just a personal tip. You can also check out our different descriptions and videos here at eTrailer if you want to know more. But today we took a look at the Yakima HighSpeed roof mounted bike rack here at etrailer.com.